Welcome to another modern video of Affinity. We are on the play. This hand has 2 mana sources and some good payoffs. That looks good. Turn 1 Vault Scourge, turn 2 Plating Equip if we draw a land, otherwise probably just plating and pass. Actually, if we draw a land, we're probably playing Master of Ethereum. But ooh, this is either the mirror match or lantern. This is the mirror. All right. Mox Opal is great. Definitely want to get the Master of Ethereum out here. It means that he can no longer trade 1-for-1 Vault Scourges against our stuff. And should have a pretty easy match from here. Or not match, but game. Having the turn 2 Master in the mirror is just so good. Steel Overseer is normally the best card in the mirror, but against a hand that's this fast, it's just not going to have enough time to do anything, and he has no 0-drop creatures to make it better. So now he's just going down straight to 2. Anything we attack with is lethal. That's pretty good. But he left himself with only 1 flying blocker, so we have an on-board win by attaching that here. Which I guess he required us to not see it anyways, but oh no, I forgot about the lifelink on that dude. Alright, it's not an on-board win. Oh no, it is. This is the instant speed cranial plating equip. This is me being lazy after a few days of really obvious wins. Anyways, sorry for the terrible commentary and sloppy play. We were just so far ahead, it didn't really matter. Anyways, we attack with these 2. He has to block the Ornithopter or he dies, and then we use double black from the Opal and the Drum to equip to the Vault Scourge, and he dies anyways. There are so many ways to navigate that turn to win. For the mirror, Etch Champion is awful, since we're basically just playing only colorless cards. Thought Seizes, Gerber Aether Grids, and Ancient Grudges are good. Probably don't actually put in the Thought Seize, since we're going to be on the draw. Nah, take out the Signal Pest, put in the Thoughtseize. Signal Pest is just really bad against Affinity. They have Vault Scourge and a whole bunch of manlands that, once animated, block Signal Pests really, really well, especially when they're not pumped by a Master of Ethereum or a Steel Overseer. Not very good. Grudges are obviously amazing. Here per Aether Grid, if you can get it down in time, takes over the game. And Thoughtseize, hopefully will take out one of their things that's particularly good, like a Master or a Grid. As nice as Ancient Grudge is, this hand has no colored mana, and Ravager is a terrible payoff in this kind of hand. That's a mulligan. This hand has a bunch of mana. If we scry into something like a Grid, this is a good hand. I don't really want to go down to 5 though, when we have functional mana. I think getting this Scry towards some piece of business and being on the draw is probably our best hope of winning. Welding Jar does not do enough. Europe or Aether Grid, the best draw here. After that, Master of Ethereum, Ancient Grudge would be fine to slow him down. Cranial Plating is always good. Not going to complain about that. I could play the Opal to cast Cranial Plating, but then I'm throwing away an Opal for not much value, and the Signal Pest and Ornithopter would be able to attack in. Right now, he's not able to attack since he would be throwing the Signal Pest into the Vault Scourge. And this is exactly why I don't really like Signal Pest in the matchup. And if he's going to Galvanic Blast a Vault Scourge, that's pretty greedy. It pays off here since the rest of our hand doesn't have creatures in it. But if I followed this up with, say, a Steel Overseer, he'd be feeling really bad. And now we're pretty dead. Steel Overseer on an uncontested board. We're just not going to be able to really kill that. Unless we find a Grudge right now, we're never going to be able to attack through these Ornithopters and things. That's a greedy attack here. We're not anywhere close to dead. Thought sees him. If this is a removal spell, like Galvanic Blast, that could explain why he feels comfortable attacking and leaving, yeah, there's Galvanic Blast. So we're down to 11. Down to 9. So he activates the Overseer. 3, 7, 9, 11. Yeah, we're just dead here. Alright. Next game. I think we run it back and hope we have better draws than instant mulligan into a flooded out hand. Oh. If his last card had not been a Galvanic Blast, and he made that attack, if we're up 4 life, would we still be dead on board? I think just barely. If we hadn't, then we could have attacked with the Ink Moth for several Infect, and then if we had drawn a removal spell, we would have lethal the following turn. Ugh. This hand is... I think this is too slow. Normally I'd be pretty happy with a hand that has a bunch of Ink Moth Nexuses and Cranial Plating, so you could just Cranial Plating and equip over and over again, and keep threatening Infect damage, but Affinity is too likely to bog us down with small air flyers, and this is just too slow. And this is unkeepable. And other than being a 5-card hand, I suppose this is fine. We have to bottom the Ancient Grudge since we have no colored mana and no second mana source. And we're probably losing just to card disadvantage here. I really don't want to see a Steel Overseer. Yeah. Because now that was a perfect draw. This gave us a chance. 2 for 1 is pretty good here. Still going to be a pretty uphill battle, but... we can either equip cranial plating for 2 bonus damage or play another Vault Scourge. Him leaving up the red makes me fear a Galvanic Blast, so I'm just going to attack first. And not equip the plating. Just too much of a loss of tempo to equip plating and have our guy get Galvanic Blasted. So glad that is not a third Steel Overseer. I could trade the Vault Scourge for the Ink Moth and allow him to sack his Ravager to pump the Ink Moth. Or I could just take the hit. I think I'll take the hit for now. I don't quite have enough creatures to be happy trading them off. This does allow me to put some decent pressure on him. Well, we're not dying to damage, so I don't actually care about the lost life. Dispatch and the Galvanic Blast. I'll take the Galvanic Blast since he has no white mana for Dispatch. And... put plating a Vault Scourge. Attack with single Vault Scourge. Move this back to block. Chump and sack Ornithopter? Sure. I'm fine trading a Vault Scourge for an Ink Moth at this point. If he sacks his Ravager to move the counters, then we can just trade the Vault Scourge for that, and we've traded 2 for 2, and we've gotten rid of a Ravager. Which is a good deal in my book. If he goes... if he sacrifices the Ravager, he has the decision whether or not he's going to all-in on the Ink Moth, which I think would probably be a pretty terrible decision for him. He's more likely to just let them trade off and try to go all-in at a later time. But he doesn't have anywhere near the amount of artifacts to get the quantity of counters he needs. It's too easy for me to just block and trade with the cranial plating default scourge. This game's gotten a lot closer since our initial hands. Drawing that Galvanic Blast definitely made it a lot closer than it could have been. No, not Galvanic Blast, Ancient Grudge. So if I was in his shoes, I would let the Ink Moths trade. You don't gain enough by sacrificing your Ravager, the Ink Moth Nexus. You give up a lot of flexibility, and flexibility is very important in this matchup. Oftentimes what you're doing is just trading off small amount of resources until you see an opening and you go all in on that opening and force through victory in a turn or two. At least when it's in, relatively tense situations like this, as opposed to a one-sided stomp where someone who just has Steel Overseer or Master of Ethereum and is bigger and wider than the other person. Oh, looks like he's going all in. That is ballsy. Does he go all in on the one that I blocked? It looks like yes. Right. I'm not going to attack here. I'm just going to sit here and block the Inkmoth Nexus when he attacks with it. Ornithopter, I don't care. Fine. Play Blinkmoth. Pass back to the Vault Scourge so that we're safe against the Inkmoth attacking. If he attacks with the Inkmoth, we block and animate. And, well, Dispatch is quite awkward. So now we have to sacrifice to the Ravager and then hope we draw another Black Source or some sort of removal spell for the Inkmoth. We could technically trade our board for his, for his Inkmoth by animating this Blinkmoth and then animating the other Blinkmoth, sacrificing a bunch of artifacts, but there's no reason to. That puts us even further behind than he is. Right now we can afford to take the 5 poison and then try to set up a good following turn. So now he can't attack us here with the Inkmoth, since we would animate a Blinkmoth and then instant speed equip cranial plating to it. So this is some kind of if this is a Galvanic Blast, we can go all in on our Nexus. If this is a Dispatch, we die to animating a Nexus with a Nexus. But if we animate a Nexus without using one of our colored mono sources, then we can't instant speed equip. So I'm going to gamble that it's not a dispatch. Yep, that's the game. All right, come back for the next match.